welcome Pam and Charmaine. I'm Doug Collins here, and I'm excited to have you ladies on this live stream tonight to talk about, I guess, your tax refund stories. So if anybody's watching, please leave us a comment, a question. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know who's watching. We're watching it here on our phone. So first of all, I wanted to start with Charmaine's story, pick up from where we left off last week. Charmaine had shared with me after the live that she actually got her notice of assessment and the money in the bank. I think it was the day or the day before that, right?
Yep.
And I got excited. So I think, that's the holy grail of the decision, right? So if Revenue Canada has any dispute with that, they're not going to give you the money, right? So I thought that was pretty exciting. And I don't know, Charmaine, if you want to add a little bit more to that, or...
Yeah, no, I guess I didn't realize, because like you said, when I told you, I was like, yeah, I got the piece of paper in the mail and the money's there, but I was like, okay, so now they're going to like audit me or something. And you're like, no, that's pretty much it. And there might be a chance, you said they might do something later on, but as of right now, the money is mine. So I was like, okay, I was like, this is it. Good.
Absolutely.
See, I even have my paper here. It's like, we've got it.
There you go, right? So, I mean, there's your answer, right? So they weren't disputing it. Everything you did was bang on. So you took a pile of receipts, was able to collect them all together, grab all your information, take it to TurboTax, enter it all in, and you filed your own income tax. You took it from pretty much ground zero to the finish line for that tax year. So, and that was 2017 tax year. So you've kind of gone into the past and pulled tax money forward that the government has been holding that whole time. When I sat down, I thought, okay, $3,200 from 2017, if we kind of broke that down, that's $267 a month, $67 a week. And if you broke it down by a 40-hour work week, you basically, for 2007 calendar year, you gave yourself $1.67 an hour raise.
Which is pretty good. And I mean, yeah. And I mean, I was only doing this job part-time. So, I mean, it's really even kind of more than that, because probably wasn't 40 hours a week I was working on my business.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, how else could you do this? How else could you sit here today in 2010 and then go back into 3 years ago and pull money out of that year? Like, what other vehicles, what other avenues could you do that? So that's where I kind of get excited and passionate and showing people that way. So Charmaine, in your case, you never filed the past 3 years. So now you're filing. So you're now filing it and being able to claim that tax refund. So we're going to jump over to Pam for a second. And I got to do a disclaimer here because Pam's my sister, Pam Collins Keefe. And so whatever she says, she's talking to her brother here, but we'll let the tax results speak for themselves because the government doesn't care if we're related or not. Pam, in your case, you had filed taxes and then learned some new information and then refiled amendment. But before we get into that, let's start a little bit about, what is your business? Because I think when people think home businesses, they kind of think we got to sell stuff. We got to make things or buy things or do direct sales or network marketing. There's different vehicles. But, in your case, you're doing something a little bit more unique. And maybe you can kind of tell us from the beginning how you started it and sort of how it looks today. So.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Pam and I'm a teacher with the Halifax Regional School Board or Center of Education. So 7 years ago, my oldest son was going to university. And so he lived at home his first year, and then he wanted to go live in an apartment in the city. So we decided that we were going to buy a condo and him and his friend were going to rent it. So they did that and everything was fine. And then it's a condo right down on Tower Road, so right across from St. Mary's. Then another one came for sale and we thought, wow, how can we do this? So instead of using our own money, we just took money from the first condo and bought a condo. So we've been doing that. There's a couple more that came up. So we have 7 rental condos now that we own. And that's how we started a business. So we have a business called Downriver Property Management. and we manage our own properties. So
Well,
you
okay.
want me to start and
Well,
tell
let's
what
take it
happened?
back. Let's take it back. I guess 2019, you and I were having a conversation on the phone one night, and I think it was around the time when I was creating my online course. I was sort of in the process
Yeah.
of doing the videos and doing all that kind of stuff and just creating this online course. And we got talking about taxes, and we had this conversation. So I knew what you were doing, but we never really kind of peeled the onion away to try to identify it. And I said, you're a home-based business. And I said, so, when you look at her business, let's call it the business model. When you look at that business, she rents properties. Any income earned has to be claimed on your taxes. Any expenses directly related to that property, hired a plumber, a carpenter, whatever, is an expense to that property. But my question to Pam was, so where do you pay those bills? Where do you do your paperwork? That's in the home office, right? So when you do that, then you set up an office and you build the infrastructure around that, and you claim those expenses, a percentage of those home office expenses, which is what your everyday living expenses are. So you're not creating new expenses. So that kind of
That's what I wasn't doing.
right.
I wasn't doing that. So I was, at that time, we had 3 condos. And so I just put them on my taxes as rental condos. And it was kind of like a business, but there wasn't any home office. I didn't really understand the home office part of it. So we just did it as rentals. And I would claim, if we needed a plumber to come in, or I would use the rent as our income. So then after talking to Doug, and he was going through making up his course and stuff, I was kind of like the guinea pig for the course. So I realized, like, what? I can have a home-based business and I can claim my house and the things around me and an office, which I was doing anyway, but I wasn't claiming anything. So I did that. I set up an office. I set up all the notebooks and, the app, and started doing it as a home-based business. So I had already, unlike Charmaine, I was right on top of things with my taxes. But I went back after talking to Doug and after doing like this course, and I refiled 2016, 2017, and 2018 taxes very, very easily. I use Simple Tax. So it is a free online tax site that you can use. They do ask for a donation, but you can go right back. You can either do it through CRA and refile, or you can go right back through Simple Tax and just change my return. So I went in and I changed it all and set it up for a home-based business. And I kept getting these checks back, like for 3 years, from 3 years, but in the matter of like a few weeks, I was getting these refunds from going back into changing my return. So that was very, very cool. So now I have this home-based business, and 2019, I did my taxes as a home-based business, and I will definitely do that again. So yeah, that was awesome.
So all through that, refiling the amendments and the 2019, you're probably looking at what, $8,000 or $9,000 maybe in tax savings?
Well, yeah, there was like 7,000, I think, total in the refunds for those 3 years. And then last year was over 3,000 that I got back just from doing this home-based business.
Right. So the
Yeah.
other operating stuff you were kind of claiming, which is sort of the obvious
Right.
things, but it
Yeah.
said, and you're applying expenses that you were already paying anyway, right? Your mortgage,
Yeah.
your mortgage interest, your heat, all those kinds of things. You were already
Yeah.
paying that anyway. So it's not like you created new expenses. You just added it
No.
as a percentage of it as a business expense,
Exactly.
which paid you
Exactly.
close to $10,000 over those many years,
Yeah.
but came in
Like
a very
my
short period
heat,
of time.
Yeah, like mine is 1/8. So 1 room out of 8 rooms is my home office. And I can claim 1/8 of my heat, 1/8 of my electricity, my gas, my property taxes, the interest on my mortgage. Like normally I just pay that. And so now getting this like over $3,000 just from having the home-based business, that's huge.
It's cash in the bank, cash in the
Yeah.
bank. So, between both of your stories is one's kind of you're both reaching back into the past and pulling tax money forward. Pam, you did the amendment. Charmaine, you're filing your taxes. Pam, you started with the course. Charmaine, you started with the book and then the course. But Pam, you were pretty instrumental for me in when I kind of got sort of near the end of having this thing done and ready to launch. You were kind of my English teacher editor, right? So how many times do you think you read this thing?
I've read this book probably. I keep it with me. I sit down, I take it to the cottage on the weekends, and I'm always looking. And oh yeah, so I realized last night I read it. I was going through it again last night, and I was texting with Doug, and because we just changed some of our mortgages to a different bank, so there was some penalties because the interest rates are so low. So we changed some of our mortgages, and there was some penalties, and I can claim the penalties, like deduct the penalties because it's a business expense. Like, so I was texting with Doug, like he's always there to ask questions. So yeah, anybody out there, if you have any questions, he's the guy, honestly. Good.
I mean, you were always there for me whenever I had any questions too. I'd message, and usually like a couple hours or even sooner I'd hear from you, and then we would make arrangements to have a more in-depth conversation about things. So
yeah, I definitely geek out on this topic. I can tell you that. So. And Charmaine, in your case, you had questions I didn't have the answer. I just researched it, right? And came back.
Which I was very appreciative of that.
Gave you a summary. I gave you the link if you wanted to go in depth more, but it kind of gave you a good synopsis of sort of where to go from there. So, the information's out there. It's just being able to find it. But if anybody has any questions, checking here. We got Heather watching, Diane's watching. Wow, I've never cleaned my office, just moved last fall. So we'll have to look at that. Yeah, so absolutely, Diane. That's something that you're hearing the stories here, right? So share a little bit about, I guess, the journey. Pam, you went from the course to the book, reading the book now. Charmaine, you kind of started with the book and went to the course. What advice would, I guess, both of you give to somebody who's watching this? Maybe they have the book, maybe they didn't read it, maybe they did read it, but it didn't sink in. Like, what advice would you give them right now if they're watching this video now live or sort of in the future if they watch it? What advice do you give them to say, if they're sitting there saying, I'm like them, right? What advice would you give them?
I mean, don't just skim the book. I think you need to have more in depth into it. Like, I had it here. My brother looked at it because my sister-in-law, she has her home-based photography business and stuff. And they're like, oh, well, I just give all my stuff to our accountant, bookkeeper, and she just does it all. She makes sure we get it all and stuff like that. So anyway, he was skimming through the book and he was like, yeah, we do all that stuff. But I don't know. I still feel that there's probably some little nuggets in there that they might be missing. So, and I mean, the reason I did the book first was because that's what I came across first as well. I didn't realize there was a course until I got looking into the links and you had other things on your webpage and stuff. And I was like, oh, there's a whole course. Like, because the book, I was like, yeah, I'm reading it, okay, this is going to help me some, but I was still left at the end of reading that. Okay, still, where do I begin? Like, I needed that spreadsheet. I needed that extra support of somebody to be able to talk to. And that was what made me decide to do the course, was that you said you were, you're available. And so that was why I did the course. And then it just walked me through. Then I was able to organize, okay, section 1, module 1, then module 2, each of the different topics. I can't quite recall which order all of them were in, but that same thing of like, okay, I did my house expenses. We went through figuring out what my house, portion would be and what that percentage was, because I had no clue. And then same with the car. And it was like, oh, car is more valuable than I thought it was, even though I didn't think I used it that much. So, that was kind of how
and you can claim the course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It
is. Yeah. My big thing right now is because I changed businesses. I didn't realize the difference between being an independent contractor and a commissioned employee. So because I was earning commission, like my income is commission based on what I sell. So I didn't realize there was that little distinction. I was thinking, oh, it's going to be great. They're already taking this new company that I joined with. They're going to be taking off your income tax, your CPP-EI. But as we're finding out, as Doug was researching more for me to help me with some of the questions of like, what does this form mean? Or what is that? And yeah, so it's not as a lucrative, opportunity for me is what I thought it was. So.
Yeah. And I went through, for Charmaine, I went through the analysis, let's say 2017 as a home business versus, an employee working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my plans is to take that, Charmaine, that information I gave you and kind of make a one pager out of it.
Mm-hmm.
On the left side is a home business. On the right side is what you can claim as an employee, and kind of compare them. Because there's so many people working from home right now, and they don't realize that they can't claim everything if they're basically an employee working from home. So, that might give them an opportunity to read something like this and say, geez, I got to find a business. I got to do something as a side business, part-time, a few hours a week, to get those extra tax advantages that I'm missing.
Yeah, it's definitely given me a lot more to think about. Like, so for 2021, I'll probably be doing some changes and things like that to try to figure things out of what.
Yeah. So you're doing it.
And you can do your own taxes.
Yes, that's right.
Big
Yeah,
thing.
I
Like,
will. And I'll know how to do them both as an employee and as an independent.
Yeah, like having this book, like with these lists, is huge. But the course, like I've been doing my own taxes. I think there was 2 years that I had an accountant do it. And the second year I had him do it, this was probably back when we first bought the first 2 condos. So he asked if any of my kids graduated from university, and I said no. And so we did our taxes. And then it was in the staff room one day that somebody said that they got this big refund because they graduated with their masters. And I was like, what? I just graduated with my master's. So I called my accountant and said, you never asked me. So they're not really invested in you and your stuff. They just, follow the checklist, right? But I ended up getting like $6,000 back that year because the government at that time was giving like, $3,000 for every year you graduated for a certain amount of years. So now I realize that I'm my own advocate. Like I can do this. I can, get all the information from Doug's book and Doug's texts and Doug's course, that I can do this myself. So I'm saving, hundreds of dollars I do my husband's and mine and my kids' taxes. And it's great to have that, ownership in your own life and your own business.
Yeah. Well, and I looked at it as the cost of the course, right? Was basically pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just justify your taxes. If you want to have questions and have them answer stuff, then you'll probably pay extra, right? So
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody have any questions they want to ask here? I'm watching Facebook. I'm not seeing any questions here. Got a few people watching. All right. So, we can wrap this up here. Any last comments, any suggestions, any thoughts about if anybody's watching this now or in the future? Recommendations to
I just say increase your knowledge, like be knowledgeable. Like this is the day that, everybody has a job, but you can have another job. Like it's okay. Like just be knowledgeable. Like I'm reading all the time, to find out how I can make more money. So switching those mortgages, like that was huge. Like just little things like that, take control of your own business and get a business if you don't have one.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like anybody who has another full-time job, like that's what I've learned, that, your full-time job, you can leverage your independent business against our income tax that we pay for our other current job, right? So it was kind of a big eye opener. I was like, how come people don't do this? Like, I would love to get $3,000 back every year, right? Like,
and it's legit. Like it's not cheating anybody. Like the government wants people to start small businesses.
Yeah,
they really do. So it's a good thing. You're helping, the world.
Yep, support local.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So you guys are teachers. That's like the first two shows are all about with interview. You know, I have a few more teachers in mind. So if you're watching it, you know I'm coming. But
Yeah.
you know, in the book, in the back there's quite a few testimonies and stories. You know, my plan is to get a lot of these folks. I want you to meet them. I want everybody to meet them. They're real people. They're real stories. You know, people I've been helping for the last couple of years specifically. And you know, there's Nick Collins. Nick, you're coming on this show, so I'll be giving you a call. So, I mean, here's my son, 21 years old. I mean, he's got a tax saving story, right? So he's used the book and the course and the information. So how's that going to impact his future at 21 years old? He filed his own taxes. So it'd be great for you to meet him. There's just so many people that are being impacted by, you know, this information, the course. Again, I geek out on it. I love it, right? So I often think, man, I should be charging percentage of commission, not a flat fee for a course with all the help that I give. So, right. So maybe give me 20% of what your tax refunds look like for the next 10 years, right? Maybe. So, but there's just so much low hanging fruit there that I think that, you know, everybody should have a home-based business. And if you have a home-based business, I can assure you that we can find you at least $1,000, $2,000 in savings that you're missing somewhere in what you're doing in a run of a year. And don't wait till tax season. If you do this next year, you can get some stuff, but you know, like what Pam is asking me questions, you're asking me on the fly, right? So if you don't, and you learn about it 3 years from now, you kind of got to go back and redo the work. You know, Charmaine, you're learning to do the same thing, but you're both learning to be proactive for the future, and you're learning to empower yourselves, and you're going to make decisions in your business to say, how does that impact my taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it's definitely changed my mindset. Yeah.
Right. You know, like one of the simple things that I say is when you get in your car and you're sitting in your driveway and you're going somewhere, how do I make this a business mileage? How do I make this a business trip? What can I do? Where can I stop by? Like, you know, but do it with the intention of doing business, not just to fake it, but maybe you never know what that might lead to. Like Pam, you can go for a drive and look at properties on your way to Costco. I'm going to swing by here and drive around and go look at a couple.
Oh, that's happened.
Yeah.
That's
business
happened.
mileage, right? So, I mean, it's having that mindset and being proactive, and those little things accumulated over a 12-month period, having the documentation and the records that you did it is worth a lot, right? And Sherman, you talked a little bit about the business, the vehicle stuff, right? So it adds up. It adds up a lot. So, all right. So what did Nick say here? I got a part-time home business while also working full-time. Absolutely. Good advice from Diane. Diane says, I've been saving all my receipts and books and courses I took, and spreadsheet will definitely help. Yeah. So maybe, Charmaine, we can talk a little about the spreadsheet, maybe help Diane understand, you know, the information in the course and how you kind of translated that in your business. Let's say your mountain of receipts of how you were able to kind of get that organized, and then how that spreadsheet summary page helped you with TurboTax or whatever, Pam, you were using. There's lots of different softwares that, you know, that translation of then saying, okay, here's my summary totals. I'm sitting in front of my tax software and I just punch numbers in, like the simplicity of it. Maybe you could talk a little bit about.
Yeah, basically. So what I did, like, as I was doing, so like one section, for example, was on doing your car and your mileage. And I mean, I was somebody who was big, and I always put everything in my phone. My life is dictated by my phone. It dings and tells me when I need to leave a place, right? So I always had everything in my phone, whether it was business or personal. So originally I wasn't going to claim my car at all. I was like, no, that's going to be like way too much. But kind of after talking with Doug, he was like, no, like, you can do this. Like, there are ways to get that stuff. Because then you suggested, well, go print your calendars off from what you had done. And that's what I did. I went through and highlighted everything. I got my, Mac pass, so then I could claim my Mac pass. So any of the dates that matched if I was over in Dartmouth. So like I had gathered and put all my car stuff together. And then like the meals and entertainment, I gathered up all my receipts that dealt with that and put them in. And then there was like your home expenses. So I went and found, all my statements from my property taxes, your home insurance, your like anything that would fall under each of the different categories. And then Yeah, I just started inputting it into the sheets. I had already pre-started one before I had kind of met Doug, so I kind of did a mash of both. So I had basically put in all my totals of everything into one spreadsheet because I had already started, and then I took my totals that I had in that spreadsheet and inputted them into Doug's one that he had provided. So then it gave me a good little summary, and all I did was print off that summary sheet because I had just done my one for the year, but through the course, you often say like do each month. But where I was, 3 years behind, we just did it all a year. So, but anyway, I had put those in, and basically when I was going through with TurboTax, it basically prompted, okay, what is your, meals and entertainment expenses? And like, it already told me that, okay, we will take the 50% off of that. So I just had to go back and look at what was my total amount before we had taken the 50% off. And there was a couple of those things that TurboTax was going to even figure some of that stuff out for me. So, but it was just great that the sheet that you provided aligned very well with what the income tax like programs were asking. Like it was the same title, so I knew, okay, this fits there, this fits there. And basically I was just checking them off as I was inputting them into the tax software, and then it gave me a summary of like, okay, here's your business summary. And like it was, I think, maybe $50 off from what I had on my sheet to what was on the computer. And I'm like, I'm not squabbling over $50 difference. And it was giving me the nice refund. So I was like, okay, this is it. It matches. I'm like, I'll just submit this, because if it was a big discrepancy, I probably would have come back to you, Doug, and been like, okay, this doesn't look right, or what am I doing wrong, or, something like that. But where it matched so well, I just submitted it. I was like, okay, this is done. We'll get this done.
You got anything you want to add to that, Pam?
I think that's awesome that, you're going back and getting it all done. As it's a nice add-on to your full-time pay.
Yeah.
So when I retire, this is my last year of teaching, then I'm going to have a business that I'm going to work on. Like I'm going to keep going, and it's going to be more hopefully than, part-time, but it's fun. It's, it's something, if you find something that you enjoy, you can make it a business and make money doing it.
Yeah. You'll be the real estate mogul of Halifax.
Yeah, no.
I've met a big group of different people of that interest, instead of like, because, when we're in our little realm of teaching, it's like teachers all around. And now, doing this and having those other businesses, you get to meet, even more people like Doug and many other people for your businesses. So it's exciting.
So Diane's asking a question here about TurboTax. You use that, Charmaine. Pam, what did you use again?
Simple Tax.
Simple Tax.
So it's all done online. It's very, very user friendly.
And there's
and TurboTax was all online too. It just walked you right through it.
Yeah, they're all like that. There's a U-File, I think. So there's different sites you can search.
Yeah, and you had even sent me a few, Doug, and I just happened to pick. I was like, well, I've heard of TurboTax. Let's just do this. And, so for the next one, when I file it, I might try a different program just to see, because I mean, when you're doing this stuff online, it's not like permanent. It's not as soon as you put it in, then you can't change anything. Like they give you so many times that you can go back and change stuff. So
the tax platform that you use, like I've been using Simple Tax now for the last probably 5 or 6 years, and it carries everything over for you. So all my information is still in there, and it shows me all of the like my business stuff comes up, and everything just automatically comes up. They said, you used this last year, you probably need these forms again this year. So it's just like, it's like my little accountant online. He's just giving me all my stuff.
Yep.
Great.
All right, so we got Sophie Marble says, hi, Pam.
Hi.
She uses Intuit software, tax software. So there's another one. There's lots of them out there. So
there is.
Yeah.
So Diane says, thanks for answering the TurboTax question, I think. So, all right. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know if we want to add anything else. There's no questions here. If anybody has a question, drop it right quick. But, we can, 30 minutes in, we can say goodnight.
And it's the book. Get the book. I tell you, like, even if you don't get the course, get the book, because it's a simple read. Like you could read it in a day, like a few hours. and jot down, take some notes, and it really will open your eyes to a lot of things that you're probably not doing.
So on
I
one
would
hand,
say
it's a
if people
simple
haven't
read.
filed, then do the course.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on one hand, it's a simple read, but there's enough content in there. You should read it a few times, right?
Oh yeah, more than a few, I'd say.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I went back through the course again, like I was re-referencing the book. So each module, when I was doing that module, I would go back and look at the book, because either sometimes you would reference that, oh, in the book, or, I would just be like, okay, let's make sure I've got this, clear, that I understand it. But yeah, to me, if you haven't filed your taxes, then I would totally do the course, and you can definitely do it yourself. You don't need to hire anybody else to do it.
Or
And
even
if
if
you
you
did
filed
file
your,
your taxes, if you did file your taxes and you have a business, go back, and if you don't have the home-based part, because those expenses are beneficial.
or you missed your mileage, there's all kinds of different categories, right? So you can go through the book here and look at the different categories.
You can
and
go back
lists and
10
stuff.
years.
Yeah.
CRA says you can go back 10 years and refile.
Yeah. So pulling money from the past, right? So
It's there.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And
Thanks, Doug.
stay tuned. Every Wednesday night, I'm going to try to get somebody on here who's either read the book, taken the course, got a tax story. I got quite a few stories here in the what chapter was it? So I think it was chapter 20. I got to reread my book here. So I got lots of testimonies in here. So I'll be reaching out to some people. I've got some people said they will. So I'm looking forward to having them on here and introducing them and sharing their story. So appreciate everybody. If you have any questions, keep adding them to the comments. I'll keep an eye on it. And until next week, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.